Good afternoon, and welcome to Free to Thrive's Financial Empowerment Academy Workshop 3. Become CEO of your finances, take charge of your 2021 finances, and tips and tools to reach your financial goals. We're just gonna kind of sit here for a minute and let some people log on. It's 12:01, so we will start here in just a minute. Got a few more people coming on. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. We're super excited to be here. Some of us from San Diego, we have someone from South Carolina, but we are gonna get this workshop started, and I think you're really gonna enjoy the next hour. Next slide, please. Just a few housekeeping things about the workshop. Please make sure you have selected speaker view in the top right-hand corner. If you have any technical issues, you can reach out to our training coordinator, Elaine at freetothrive.org or 619-758-5582. Note that all participants in the workshop today are muted and we cannot see you. You can use the Q&A chat feature at the bottom of the screen to ask questions throughout the entire workshop, but please note that we will be answering the questions at the very end of the workshop, hopefully to make things go a little bit quicker. Next slide, please. If you missed our last virtual training, our last financial empowerment workshop was in July. You can view it and view the recording on via our website at freetothrive.org. Next slide, please. We are super excited because we've added a little holiday cheer to today's workshop. If you attend all of the live workshop today, you will have a chance to win a $25 Visa gift card. When you logged in to the workshop today, everyone on kind of the back end of our system is assigned a random number. So at the end of the workshop, I will be selecting 3 random numbers, and winners will be notified via email later today. So stay tuned to your inbox. Again, we will have 3 winners and 3 $25 gift cards. Next slide. For some of you, this may be your first workshop. For others, this may be your second or third workshop. This is actually our third workshop of our Financial Empowerment Academy. My name is Susie Day, and I'm Director of Development here at Free to Thrive and our Survivor Empowerment programs, and honored to share this next hour with you and tell you a little bit more about the Financial Empowerment Academy. Next slide. The Academy is one of our Survivor Empowerment programs and a first of its kind in that it gives participants the skills, tools, and support to become financially empowered and independent. The best part is it's free. We will feature speakers, mentors, all different types of topics, but hopefully things that get you inspired to really get control of your finances. The first workshop we had was this past February, pre-COVID. We had over 15 participants and 22 volunteers. It was an incredible, incredible workshop, and we were so excited about the feedback, the positive feedback that we got about the workshop. Of course, when COVID hit, we weren't quite sure what we were going to do to move forward, but the silver lining was that we were able to go virtual in July, and because of that, we were able to reach many survivors across the country. Today, I'm excited to share with you that we actually have participants from 5 different states. Next slide, please. We are honored to have some very special guests for you today. Unfortunately, Sandy Redmond, former Senior VP at California Bank and Trust, is not feeling well and won't be with us. So I will do my best to cover some of her banking insight, and we will have her back in the new year to take a little bit deeper dive into banking basics and how you can overcome banking challenges. Coming up shortly, what we are very excited about is we have a panel discussion with an incredible survivor leader, Kat Wiena, founder and executive director of the Formation Project in South Carolina. The discussion will be led by our amazing client liaison, Dion Sales McKinney, and they will be discussing lots of advice, tips, tools to overcome financial challenges, whether it's banking, credit, all different things that you might encounter, and how to turn those obstacles into opportunities. I think more importantly, they will be sharing a lot of inspiration to really help you feel empowered to take control of your finances. Closing out our workshop today is our incredible case assistant, Brooke Scott, and she will be discussing personal budgeting, including the opportunity to have one-on-one guidance and support with your own personal budget. You may have seen in your Zoom registration, there's a link to a personal budget template, and you can go back, download that template, and hopefully put into action a lot of what you will be learning today. But if you missed that, don't worry, we will be sending out an email after this workshop with not only the recording of the workshop and the PowerPoint, so you have all the information right there, but you will also have the link to be able to download that personal budgeting template. And again, we really hope that after today, our goal is that you will feel empowered and inspired by our speakers to really take those next steps to become CEO of your finances and so much more. Again, please feel free to add questions in the chat, and we will answer as many as possible at the end of the workshop. Next slide, please. As I mentioned at the beginning, unfortunately, Sandy isn't able to be with us today, but I am happy to share a little bit of her banking basics to kick off the workshop. Next slide. To kind of get us all in the financial mindset, I thought we should kick off the workshop by sharing Kat's favorite financial quote. It's a pretty powerful statement to think about throughout this workshop. Real wealth is not about money. So let's all think about that a little bit as you're gaining all these tips and tools from your speakers today. It's a really powerful quote, I think, for any of us watching. Next slide, please. Before we dive into the banking, we're going to launch a poll right now just to get a little bit of information about the participants and hear your experience with banking. Elaine, go ahead and launch. Do you currently have a checking or savings account? An easy one, answer yes or no. Wow, that is awesome. So everyone here has a checking or savings account. That's awesome. That's great to hear because obviously having a bank account is great for so many different reasons. And I'll just state a few just to kind of give us all a little bit of a refresher about the importance of banking, bank accounts, and creating really good, healthy banking habits. Of course, a bank account offers you convenience. They're safe. It's an easy way to save money. Bank accounts are cheaper than, say, taking your paycheck to a check cashing establishment, where they can take, at least in the state of California, up to 12% of that check. Lastly, banks accounts can also help you access credit in the future. So as you establish these great banking habits and banking relationships, that can open doors in the future to things like car loans, credit cards, and even home loans. Next slide. Of course, once you open a bank account, and it has many, many benefits. You have the option for direct deposit. Again, going back to the check cashing, no need to cash that check, but you can actually have your employer directly deposit your paycheck into your bank account, which obviously is a huge convenience. You can pay bills through your bank account. You can cash checks. You can have, what is great is you have a paper trail, whether it's online or actual physical bank statements of payments that are made to people. And it also really helps you kind of focus and keep track of where your money's coming and going. Of course, everything about your bank account is confidential. And overall, it makes managing your money a lot easier. You're able to have it in writing and see it right there in front of you. And really, Brooke will probably share a little bit later about how that can become a tool to help you even with your personal budget. And of course, access to ATMs anywhere, which means you don't have to carry cash on you, which is a lot safer, and use your bank or credit union's ATM and get cash that way. Next slide, please. So next steps, which actually for our participants today, you probably don't necessarily need to go through these steps, but again, we'll refresh in case you want to open an additional account or go to a new banking institution. Usually, these are the three things that you need to do to open a bank account. The first is you must have a valid government issued photo ID, such as a driver's license, state ID, or passport. Secondly, you're probably going to need to give other basic information like your birth date, social security number, taxpayer identification number if you're opening a business account, or phone number. And lastly, most institutions are obviously going to require a certain amount of money to open that bank account. Next slide. I'm now super excited to have Dion take over at this point and introduce Kat as well, who will start discussing how to overcome financial challenges. They'll discuss things like credit and banking and ways that you can start healthy habits, tools you can use to put a lot of what you learned today into action. And I think you will be really inspired about what you hear from Kat and Dion. So Dion, take it away.
Thank you for that awesome introduction, Susie. You did an amazing job as usual. Can we start with the poll first, please? Elaine, thank you. What has been your biggest financial challenge this year? Is it fear of going into a bank and not getting approved for a bank account? Your credit score being too low? Not having enough money to pay bills, or bad spending habits? Please chime in. Wow. Wow. This is inspiring to see. 44% bad spending habits, no judgment. 33% credit score issue, and 22% not having enough money to pay bills. Thank you for your courage to be honest. what you shared today is the reason why Financial Empowerment Academy exists. So we will take that information and figure out how to address your needs. Thank you. Now for the good stuff. We have Kat here who is going to be open and honest about her journey getting to financial stability in her life at this time. And so we're going to ask her some questions. Kat, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yay. Okay, so the most important financial principle is contentment. It brings peace. And I imagine something magical happens when you write down your goals. It changes the way you see your situation, your money situation. So Kat, would you mind sharing with us your mindset when it comes to financial challenges?
Yes. I think your mindset is probably one of the most important parts, and the battlefield essentially of your mind is like the first big step. And when you can conquer that, you can conquer other things. So staying positive, and going into this, one way that I went into really like focusing about my finances was to come up with like a wish list instead of just buying things when I wanted to. I would come up with like a list of things that I wanted, and I would let it sit on that list and then have dates of like when I wanted to like accomplish that. And so I was looking at like, what can I do if I had more financial freedom and kind of like a positive mindset. So I think that's huge.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, honestly. And so with our poll, which was very, very eye-opening to understand that some have bad spending habits and some did not have enough money to pay bills, and then the credit score too low. Fortunately for us, everyone who joined us today already has a bank account. But I imagine at some point, there was a time where they had to overcome banking challenges. And we know earning a lot of money is not the key to prosperity. It's how you handle it. So would you mind sharing with us how you overcame some of your banking challenges and what that meant to you?
Yes. So I think a huge challenge that I had was just shame and insecurity about not understanding a lot about finances. Or you go into the bank, do you go to a teller, or do you go like stand in line, or do you go to like a banker? I don't know, people don't tell you that. And so realizing that they have jobs, like they get paid to do what they do, and so they essentially work like we're the customer, like they work for us. So having that mindset of like, if I didn't understand something, or I was like, they said something, instead of just like letting it go and pretending I knew what they were talking about, being like, well, I don't do banking 24/7. Could you explain what a Roth IRA is? I don't know what that means. What is IRA? Like, could we break it down here? So getting the confidence to be upfront about the things that you don't know and not being shameful about it, because a lot of people don't.
Right, right. Thank you for sharing. So our next question would be, we need suggestions on changes to take charge of your financial future. Of course, we're in COVID right now, so everyone is probably challenged with financial insecurity or challenges, but we also know that you can reach financial peace, but it does take time, and it does take effort, and it also takes discipline. Can you share with us some suggestions in ways in which it took time for you, and the discipline in which you had to take charge of your financial future?
Yes, so this is crucial. The first step is getting accountability. Don't do it by yourself, because you have to have somebody there asking questions and keeping you accountable, or you'll just let it go. And so integrity and honesty is really big with your finances. Being able to be honest with yourself about your spending habits and not judging yourself, starting from wherever you are, and then getting somebody that you trust, not to judge you, but will hold you accountable in your finances, I think is a good way to get started. Don't do it by yourself. And then the next thing I would say is, instead of thinking of goals and having like a goal-based life, have a value-based life. And so think of, you know, the values and the reasons why you want to get your finances, like why you want peace in your finances, right? Mm-hmm. Because you need to boil down, like, why am I doing this? And I like to do the rule of 7. Like, I'll ask myself why 7 times over one situation to really understand my root. So like, why are you getting a bank account? Because I need a bank account to get stable and to build credit. But why do I want to build credit? Why do I want to do this? Well, I want to buy a house. Why do you want to buy a house? To spend more time with my family. What, you know what I mean? Like, why are you working? You're working to live. You're not living to work. And so getting your values and your priorities right is going to help you achieve peace sooner, because you're not going to be chasing a goal-based, value-based life, or a goal-based life and like material things, but you're chasing values, peace, and, you know, community, and to be able to bless other people, and so it just helps with the overall process is figuring out what your values are.
And as you know, peace means different things to different people. Financial stability looks different for different people. Right. How did you get to a place where you defined what financial peace or stability look like to you, and if it's different?
So I think that this has evolved and changed over a period of time. I'm not sure if you guys hear a humming. I'm sorry if you do. It's but this changed over time for me. And so first I was like, I'm going to work really hard to build credit to buy a house. I just bought a house recently, which was a huge financial, like, it was a huge thing for me. Awesome. But then when I got into the house, and I sometimes realized that, like, I was working nonstop to achieve something, and I don't know what that something was. And I had to realize I don't want to work 80-hour work weeks to achieve, you know what I mean? Like, my goal is to spend more time with my family, to not have to work less and live more, honestly. And so I had to, like, realize, what does that translate in my life? So is it a big house, or is it like a smaller house that I could take care of and financially afford so that I could work less? You know what I mean? And so your values will change, and that's okay. And so figuring out where you are right now, what matters most to you right now, like I said, I think is the first step.
That is awesome. And thank you so much for sharing. Our second panelist has joined us, and we're excited to have Christy. And so, Christy, are you teed up and ready for your question?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you for joining us today. Good. So excited.
I'm sorry about the technical difficulties.
No problem. No problem. So the question for you is, if you can't, and this is based around credit. We did a poll right before the panelists, and one of the issues was a low credit score. And I imagine at some point in life, you had a low credit score. And so the thought process is, if you can't pay cash, you can't afford it. But that's not always how we address financial things, right? Financial peace isn't the acquisition of stuff or getting stuff, but it's learning to make life, learning to live less than what you make. So my question to you is, how did you go about raising and improving your credit score? And how did you find out it was even an issue for you?
It wasn't an issue for me before. I lived day to day. So it was not an issue. I didn't care about credit or my score or anything. On a time. I realized, meeting my fiance, who's now my husband, that I had ruined his credit. I heard that mentioned before. Incarcerated, and like I said before, I found my credit counselor in jail. I started looking for ways to change how I was and how I thought. So taking that, I carried that note, and when I got out, I approached her, we made an appointment, and I got over my fear of feeling and looking ignorant. I didn't want to appear to be ignorant about money or anything, because here I am, a survivor. when it comes to finance.
That's right.
Learn how to count. Learn how to make your money work for you. You're always working for them. So once you change that too.
Yeah.
So that was intricate, just being able to let my guard down and trust them. And being able to trust someone enabled me to have her pull up my credit. We talked about my challenges. We talked about bill paying. At the time that I met this woman, I couldn't pay anything. I had no money, no. But if you keep on, we started with one bill. One. For me, it was desperate. And I picked that one at $40 a month. And then life goes on and things happen. And I was able to pay back everybody that had accredited, we had taken credit from, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 people. It's just a little difficult, but I'll get to that. But making those payments raises your self-esteem. Doing credit testing, doing credit counseling, those things. Watching your credit records. Went from 314, which I didn't think it was that possible to be that low, but possible to be even more. To I'm in the upper 700s right now, heading for 8. All through just steady, paying your bills, not on time, but early, paying more. We took out some of these things just to raise our credit. Not things we wanted, things we needed, just things that were essential, but some of that was planned by me strategically to further our credit, to get people to trust us again. Building trust is a little hard.
And when you say, I'm sorry, I hear something. When you say the fear, how or what were the steps that you took to get over that fear? And if you don't mind, if you could come a little closer so we can actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. I talked lower. The steps that I took to get over that fear is, in my mind, it was just making a decision to face my fears. One of the fears that I have always is economic insecurity. I was a day-to-day worker, so economic insecurity is something that's driven inside me, and I had to learn to be okay with less. I had to learn that if I do not have it, it's not okay to go and seek it elsewhere. Just sit there and be okay with myself.
Yes.
Nothing was going to happen. Nothing detrimental.
Thank you. So now we'll come into our final question, and this is going to be addressed to both you, Christy, as well as Kat. And this is with regards to personal budgeting. Yeah. So having a budget doesn't mean you can't have fun, right?
Right.
It means you need to make a plan, not a goal, Cats, but a plan, and don't let your expenses get out of control. Right. So when it comes to personal budgeting, can you tell us some things that you found yourself letting get out of control, that if you had the opportunity to look at it, you would have done something differently, and how you would have done something different to manage your personal budget? Do you want Kat to go first?
Please.
No problem.
I want to learn from Kat, actually, because she seems to be a little bit more equipped to budget.
No,
come on, Kat.
We're all struggling through this together, but so if you don't look, you'll spend like crazy, right? It's like sometimes you just don't want to look at your bank account because you're like, I don't want to know the damage that I've done. But you have to know the damage that you're doing or you can't get better. And so one budget thing that gets out of control for me is, and I like eating out, like just cook at home. It is so, it's so good to like save money just to cook at home. Like you save a ton of money. The other thing is, so just having like self-control, and then back to the accountability, right? Like have somebody else, like y'all need to get married and share a bank account, because let me tell you about the accountability that comes in when you're married and all of a sudden somebody's looking at everything you buy. No, I'm just kidding. But
I am married.
financial, like, accountability buddy, you know, like, get somebody who's going to help you with that. And then the other thing is, yes, you have to spend less to do better, and self-control is a huge part of this. But also don't always think about cutting back, but think, how can I make more? There's always more money to be made out there. And so what other gigs, what other side hustles, what other ways can you monetize the things that are important to you and that you enjoy, so that you can make more? Because that's also an option as well.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. Christy?
Okay, so one of the things that I did do is that I know I'm not really a great budgeter, and I know my struggles, and I know my my little perks. I like to shop. I do, and I like to shop for my children and my grandchildren. That is my one weakness. It really is. If I see something, I was like, why can't they have it? Like, I'm really bad with that. So, and we do have a joint bank account, and I have 2 other bank accounts that are just my personal ones. My mother's always taught me, have a joint account with your husband, and also put away for rainy days for yourself. Right. You know about that one. And that's something, just old fashioned for me. So I do accountability. I do have accountability with my husband, and we explain to each other, about different things, and we talk to each other about expenses. I don't just buy something just because I see it. Especially, I'm not really a shopper for me. I'm not one of those people that just, those things don't bother me. Huh?
I have a random one more thought that you reminded me, Chris, is especially with dealing with shame, and that shuts me down more than anything, I think, is find a budgeting tool that works for you. So some people work well on a zero-based budget, where you budget everything down to the last cent, and by the end of the month, you're zero, right? I know that I don't have the administrative bone in my body to keep up with something like that. And so inevitably I'm failing before I start, because I was setting myself up with something I wasn't going to keep track of. And if I don't keep track of it, I just blow it. So instead, personally, I like a pay yourself first method, which is you pay all of your bills, your things, and the rest of the month is, you put, I personally like to do the 50, 30, 20 rule, like rent, gas, food, bills for 50%, 30% goes to like my wants, and then 20% like 10 in saving, 10 invest, or go off, whatever it is. Divide your money up, then the rest is to spend, and that helps me stick to a budget a little more.
But
don't set yourself up for failure.
The rest is spend. That's where my problem is. That's where my problem lies. Yeah. Instead of, I like your thoughts. We're sort of working on that. What we're doing is, what I do. I'm the bill payer. So I take care of all the bills I pay, and I make sure everything is paid on time or before time. Okay. I'm the one that's he doesn't really know about the bills or anything. So I'm the one that's working on our credit, not just mine.
Right.
Also. So we go to these classes together. We listen to our credit counselor together. We have discussions sometimes weekly about what to need and what to want. Because we both come from different opinions.
Right.
So, and I defer to him most of the time on what's a want, and he defers to me with what's a need. So these things work out okay, but instead of paying myself first, we have a method of, let's pay the bills, then this much is going into savings, and then this much is, like, we're not into investments yet, but then like this, what we have each to spend that week. But then he wants to do, let's see who can save mostly out of that to put away, because we're getting older, and so we don't have very much time to done a lot of things. So nothing open.
Well, thank you both for sharing that. I had another question with regards to managing a personal, but no worries. We appreciate your comments. Another question with regards to managing your personal budget. You can't get out of debt while keeping the same lifestyle.
Right.
I got you there, right? So how do you cut out everything except the basics? And so, and I'm gonna look at both of you.
That was very easy. That was simple. that increased our savings exponentially. I told it, couldn't do anything, couldn't go anywhere.
Right. Okay, Christy.
For me, it was back to like the value thing, and realizing like I love makeup and clothes and all the other things any other girl loves. But realizing like me getting my hair done and things like that, like I had to see it from a mindset of control. Like my dog, like these people are telling me to dye my hair because it's like a societal thing that they put on me. So it's like another form of control. They're spending my money, whoever they are, telling me that I have to do this or get my nails done or have makeup on every day to look professional or to have these shoes. And so it was like, this is just another form of control in my life that I need to realize like what brings me joy and what brings me like happiness. And that really got rid of a lot of my extra spending because I was like, this is not something that needs to have this much control over my life.
Right. Well, thank you guys both for sharing. I hope the attendees got something very valuable from what you did share. We will end this panel discussion by asking you both if you could share one single thing with our survivors that are attending this workshop, how to start. It's one thing to get there and the process and the effort and the time, but how to start. Who wants to go first? Christy?
I would say that financially it's very scary. When to start, how to start, prayer. Everything for me starts with prayer. God does not want you to worry for a thing.
Amen.
He will take care of you. You have to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
My thing is, I'm working at home always. Always. I never stop working.
Yeah.
Like, so work hard.
Yes. Thank you, Christy. Kat?
I would say if you're starting to focus on your finances, know that it gets better from here, not worse from here. And so the damage is done, whatever's done, just look at it and start wherever you are. So don't try to start work on everything at one time, but say, I'm going to pay attention to one thing. I'm going to make a calendar and put all my bills on this calendar. And so I'm going to pay attention to when bills need to be paid or something. Just start small and a small task that you know you can accomplish, and then write it on a list and check it off. It feels so good to be able to be like, I accomplished that. So start with one easy thing, and know that like just because you're a survivor doesn't mean that this is indicative of your survivorhood and where you are, because so many other people who haven't been through what you've been through are in worse financial places. And so you can do this because you've been through hard things, and you can do harder things. So you got this.
Thank you, Christy, and thank you, Kat, for sharing. This has been a great panel, and I'm hoping that the survivors that are joining us today are empowered and encouraged to change. Because if you keep doing what you're doing, you'll keep getting what you're getting. And that is financial insecurity, that is challenged, and letting the finance or the not having finances have more control over you or your future. And as a survivor, becoming a thriver, that cannot be your makeup, that cannot be your mindset, that cannot be your focus, that you have to get to a point, but you will either learn to manage money or the lack of it will always manage you. And, and I wanted to share that in the sense of, because we're getting ready to lead into the part where I'm going to introduce Brooke Scott, who is a case assistant with Free to Thrive, and she is doing amazing things with regards to resources, credit, and budgeting. And you're going to get the opportunity to hear from her on ways in which you could think about personal budgeting, because more money does not solve money problems. Spending less does. So now Brooke will chime in and share with us. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, Dion. So I'm here to discuss with you the why, the what, the when, and the how conversation and how that relates to your personal budgeting. So first, we want to just generate another poll for all of you, which is just essentially asking, what is your financial goal going into 2021? So saving money for a couple of people, increasing credit score, then getting help with budgeting to become financially stable. Well, it's actually really great that a lot of you are saying the budgeting to become financially stable, because that's what we are here for at Free to Thrive. So if we could go to the next slide. So my first question is essentially like, why create a personal budget? And feel free to incorporate or include your own thoughts and opinions on this in the chat function as well. But ultimately, it's an opportunity for you to take control of your finances and your debt, right? We're talking about becoming the CEO of your finances. And to become financially stable, it really does require that you take control of that through personal budgeting. Next slide. So now looking at the what. So what does creating a personal budget actually do, right? There's a couple of things here. So we're transitioning, instead of saying financial goals, rather financial values, thanks to Kat's insights. But keeping an eye on those goals, but also those values, right? So a simple goal could just be getting your finances under control. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're saving for something in particular, correct? So helping you stay focused and not overspending, right? So don't exceed, you want to ensure that your outgoing expenses are not exceeding what your incoming expenses are. So what are you getting in terms of your forms of income, right? And there's always those opportunities to increase what your income is, as was discussed during our panel, right? Helps you with savings and unforeseen emergencies, right? So this could be if you are laid off from work, or there's a health-related emergency. Maybe one of your financial values is that you always want to have that stability. And so you decide that you want to make sure you have X number of months rent like saved up, right? And what do you need to do in case, so to plan ahead for any unforeseen emergencies. These are different things that you can take into consideration for yourself as you go through this. Helping you identify, I'm saying harmful and not necessarily bad habits when spending, and building better ones. And by that, I mean, it's not necessarily in and of itself bad that you maybe go out and do certain things that you're like, I want to get my nails done, or I want to go have fast food. Maybe you had a long day, you haven't had a chance to go home. So they're not necessarily bad in and of themselves, but it's kind of the continuity of the time, the amount of times in which you're doing it, the frequency in which you're doing it, that you want to take consideration. Like, how does this harm me if I do this today, right? What does that mean? Does that mean I can't pay a bill later on because I decided to, eat out today? Asking yourself these questions before you participate in a particular habit will help you kind of take control over your finances. And then ultimately it leads to less stress. You're not tossing and turning up at night, concerned about, your financials. You're not afraid to look at, your banking, your savings account or your checking account. That's really a part of, again, becoming that CEO of your finances. Next slide. So now the when should you begin working on your personal budget? I mean, I hope you know that for us, the answer is now, right? There's no time like the present to start thinking about your financial fitness, your financial future, right? This is really where you taking control of your life can start any day. It's up to you to decide when that is. And so also remember that budgeting is like a muscle, right? You have to work on it on a regular basis if you want to strengthen it. And that's what we're here to assist you with at Free to Thrive. So next slide. And then lastly, the how. How should you begin working on your personal budget, right? So what are things that you can do? So for one, keeping track of your incoming and outgoing expenses, right? And utilizing a budgeting spreadsheet. I think Susie had mentioned at the beginning that there was one included that is a Nifty's little spreadsheet that I put together for Free to Thrive that we can assist you with in terms of getting your finances under control, looking at what your actual expenses are, and creating a personalized budget that is specific to you and your needs. So that's why we encourage you to schedule an individual budgeting session so we can look specifically at what are your incoming, what are your outgoing expenses, and have that conversation with all of you. Next slide. So what does that mean? There really has to be like a call to action, right? It's like, great, you've provided us with all these resources and these tools, but what does that actually mean for me specifically? And so my ask or my request is to all of you to just, what are 3 to 5? Like, just let's keep it very simple. And if you need to do less, maybe you just need to do 1. It's up to you. What are 3 to 5 realistic things that you can do this week to help you begin your smart budgeting journey, right? And these are just some examples that we've included, right? You can obtain a free copy of your credit report at annualfreecreditreport.com. And a lot of times these resources are also listed in our weekly Thriver Thursday e-blast, one of which went out today. So make sure you check your emails. So being honest with yourself about your financial situation. I believe this was discussed in the panel as well, but I really want to emphasize that. Like, it's a very simple thing that you can do. Maybe you just need to write it down, right? How can I be honest with myself? Like saying, I'm afraid, maybe you write it down. I'm afraid to open, to look at my checking account because I'm afraid of, what's in there or what it'll say, right? Just giving yourself that opportunity to just be honest, have an honest conversation with yourself, because you can't have an honest conversation with others about your finances if you're not really willing to address some of the concerns that you have. Another simple thing you can do, adopting a money mantra. And by that, I just mean reminding yourself always, and I think this is especially crucial from what was discussed in the panel about going into like banking institutions and having that fear of, I'm not familiar with like financial lingo and language, but having some sort of mantra, like you are the CEO of your finances, right? They are working for you. This is a judgment-free zone. Like having those conversations with yourself, reminding yourself, I don't understand. This needs to be maybe repeated. I really want you to look at it from the perspective of, these are your finances at the end of the day, right? These are your finances. You are the CEO of your finances, nobody else. And remind yourself that not only they, but we work for you. Those individuals, when you go into those banking institutions, if you set up a one-on-one personalized budgeting session with us, we work for you. If you need me to repeat something multiple times because you don't understand it, that is not on you. That means that I need to change the way in which I'm saying something to ensure that you feel secure in what's being, the information that's being provided to you, right? That is a sign of a good teacher. So do not place that blame or that guilt in your court. That means that they need to adjust how they're saying it. And so I cannot stress that enough, because I know that sometimes we will, I don't understand, and maybe it's just me, and, no, they work for you. And lastly, this is a 100% judgment-free zone. So when you're coming in to work on your finances, again, we want you to be honest with us. Like, we're not here to criticize or critique or, break down your budget and tell you to stop spending on this or that. We recognize that, again, there are some harmful habits and there's healthy, some habits that are healthier, but we also understand that, like, for some people, there's certain things they perceive as wellness, right? So maybe eating out once a month, right? Maybe you can decrease certain things. If you're eating out on weekly, maybe you eat out once a month. And maybe because that's a wellness thing for you. I don't know. Maybe, getting your hair done or whatever it may be is a wellness thing for you. Like, nobody else can make those decisions for you. They can simply explain to you why that might be a harmful habit, and you can change those as you please. Okay. So next slide. So these are just some budgeting tools that we encourage you to look at. And again, this kind of comes in with the homework aspect as well. So Fingerhut, envelopes, Truebill, Mint, My Money Coach. You'll see My Money Coach usually in our Thriver Thursday e-blast as well. They have some great resources, and Credit Sesame. A great way, if you are concerned with looking at your own finances, Mint, I would highly recommend. It creates essentially like a pie chart of all of your different income, like all of the expenses. Like, you can attach your different credit cards or your debit cards to that account, and it will map out for you what your financial expenses are. So if you don't want to look at it, obviously take into consideration it's the holidays, so maybe you'll have more in like personal, outgoing expenses because you're buying gifts for loved ones. But, that could just be a simple homework assignment. Just continue as you would for an entire week, utilizing the Mint app, for example, and just simply see where you are in terms of your budgeting. You may not even be aware how much you're spending on, fast food or clothing and other personal items. That can help you get under control once you actually understand where the issue areas, where the harmful habits are actually coming from. Next slide. And again, if you want help with creating your personal budget, feel free to reach out to me, either myself or Dion as well. And we'll make sure that we get that set up for you. We can go through the budgeting spreadsheet, answer any questions. Again, 100% judgment-free zone, and additionally is an opportunity for you to share with us what your values and goals are. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Susie.
Wow, some incredible information. I cannot thank Kat, Christy, Dion, Brooke enough for the incredible conversation. So many amazing tips and tools. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm totally inspired to open my checkbook, look at my bank statement, and put some of these tips and advice into action. And with that, it's time for us to answer any questions you guys might have. And I'm happy to direct them to any of our speakers today. So Sophie from our team has been monitoring our active chat, and she will let me know of any questions that are coming through right now. Hey, Soph. Oops, Sophie, are you there?
I'm here.
Awesome. Any questions so far? And actually, I want to point out that Sophie did put the link to the personal budgeting spreadsheet that Brooke created in the chat. So you can have access to it there right now, but it is also on our website. And as I mentioned before, everyone will be getting an email after this workshop with a recording of the workshop today. So you can view at your convenience to go back and review what you've learned today. But you will also have the link to the budgeting spreadsheet and also the PowerPoint. So all of the information will be there for you after the workshop. Go ahead, Sophie. Sorry, I just wanted to add that in.
Still waiting for some to come through right now.
So you can direct your questions if you have any to Brooke directly about budgeting, or to Christy or Kat if you have anything. Love all the comments that we got in the chat today. Thank you, Stephen, for being part of the workshop today. Not only do we have survivors on today, but we also have amazing service providers and other community members really interested in the power of our financial empowerment workshop. So thank you again, everyone who came on today. Any questions? I think maybe at this point we're good, or is there anything, Sophie?
Nothing yet.
Well, feel free. I just have a few more things to add before we conclude. So feel free to add any questions into the chat. But Sophie, do you want to share the next slide?
If you guys want a completion certificate, you can go ahead and send me an email at sophie@freetothrive.org.
Awesome. And some of you may just want one to show that you've attended this workshop. If you've attended past workshops and you didn't get one, we're happy to do that, to create one for you for those workshops as well. Some of you might need one to show that you've participated. So Sophie can get that to you right away. We can send it through email. Next slide.
We had a question come in through the chat, if you want to answer that now.
Yeah, that would be great.
Perfect. The question is, how can I exercise the muscle of financial fitness, and how do I stay motivated?
Ooh, I think I will hand that back to Kat and Christy. If you guys are still there, do one of or both of you want to take a stab at that one?
Sure. I don't know if Christy is still on or not, but how can you exercise the muscle? So I like to, I have to put it in a schedule or I won't exercise it. So it just personally is my thing. So what I mean by that is once a month, my husband and I try to go on a budget date. And I know that sounds so lame, but do it. Like, hang out. If you drink wine, pour yourself a glass of wine. If you cook yourself some dinner, and then sit down and like plan and do a budget check. And so like write all your bills down, look where you're at, like look at the goals and the wish list that you created of things that you want and things like that, and put it in a routine. And so even if that's same thing, because I saw the question that's like any recommendations for taking control of credit card debt, and same thing, put it in a schedule and a routine. I like live and die on my Google Calendar. I don't know if anyone else is like that, but if it's not on the calendar, it's not going to happen. So that's one thing I would do. And then credit card debt is, I really recommend getting a financial advisor for credit card debt, just because credit can be tricky sometimes, and sometimes there should be things that you could pay off first that would make more sense, even though the due date might be different. And so just getting somebody who is in the credit world to be able to look at that and say, where should I make a move first? And if you're dealing with health credit or medical credit, which personally that was huge for me, I had so much medical credit that I just didn't want to look at it. Realize that medical debt is not as bad as it's more workoutable. I know that's not a word, but than you think. And there's lots of programs that hospitals have, and there are discounts, and there are ways to work with creditors and credit agencies. And there's so many tips and tricks out there. So get somebody who knows in there and ask where you should start. And little by little, just work on it little by little. You'll be surprised how impactful just little improvements are on your credit.
Another question just came through right now. Any recommendations for personal budgeting if you do not have a checking account to help you track expenses?
Sure. My question also would be, do you use any sort of like apps also with your credit, or it's just completely there's no bank account? If you're doing cash, you can look up the Dave Ramsey method. He used to have a method for cash-based budgeting using envelopes. And so essentially in the beginning of the month, you're writing rent, utilities, and putting in like the things that you want to spend in there on there, and working from cash based.
Great question.
And then Kat, I'm pretty sure you answered part of this question, but do you have any recommendations for taking control of credit card debt?
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, get with a person who handles credit for sure. Just to ask where to start, just because some of it can be complicated, I guess, or, like wrote off, or you could settle sometimes a debt for less than it was. My other advice would be, don't hang up and not answer creditors' calls. So answer those calls, because if you're making you can build a relationship with your creditor actually. And it's really interesting how much control they have over if they could settle a debt for less, or if they could help you make payments or whatever it is. But even if it's to answer the phone call and say, hey man, I don't have anything to pay you right now, call me back, this day, and I'm going to, make small payments, build the relationship. And then maybe you can ask, if it's $100 credit, hey, I can pay this with $80. Can we settle this credit for $80? And sometimes they'll do that. So don't be afraid of answer those phone calls.
Great advice, Kat. Thank you. Any other questions, Sophie?
That's all for now.
Oh, thank you so much, Kat. And I will add, for those of you that didn't participate in our July workshop, on our website, on the financial empowerment page, you can find a link to the past workshop. And that workshop in July, we had half of it was all about credit. So I think you might find some tips and tools in there from a credit expert that we had speak. So that's one thing you could also do is review that recording and watch that. And we plan in January, the next Financial Empowerment Academy workshop, to dive much deeper into credit and identity theft. Actually, you might as well go to next slide. Next slide, Sophie. And that will be at the end of January. We haven't confirmed the date yet, but just so you know that we will be doing a little deeper dive about credit and identity theft in that particular workshop. So you will automatically get an email since you've participated in this workshop today about that, but you can always obviously go to freetothrive.org to get updated information about the Financial Empowerment Academy and lots of other things that Free to Thrive is doing. But we hope to have that around the last week of January, so stay tuned to that. Next slide, please, Soph. There you go. There's the actual link. You can cut and paste that into your browser and it'll take you right to our Financial Empowerment Academy page. Next slide. Any further questions, and not just questions about the topics today, but any other questions you have or anything else that we can do to support you at Free to Thrive, you can reach out to myself, Susie Day, Dion, or Brooke. There's all the contact information, phone, and emails. Again, you will be getting this PowerPoint in the email after the workshop, so you'll have all of that in case it's needed. Next slide. We're going to kind of now end the workshop. We started with a little bit of Kat's favorite inspiration, financial inspiration. So now we're going to end the workshop with Christy's financial words of wisdom. And this was a favorite quote that she liked. Invest in yourself first, expect nothing from no one, and be willing to work for everything. I think that is an incredible way to end this workshop, something to leave you with, feeling empowered, hopefully, to take those next steps, even if they're small steps, toward your financial goals, especially for 2021. This has obviously been a challenging year for so many people. And I think what's great is 2021 is almost here. And I know that all of us, if we put our minds to it, can become CEO of our finances. Next slide, Sophie. I'm going to now just take this time to thank you all for joining. We look forward to connecting with you guys in the future. And I will also take a moment that from everyone at Free to Thrive, we wish you and your families a happy, safe holiday season. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.